When playing Dungeons & Dragons or any other TTRPG, some GMs roll their dice in the open, but others roll behind the GM screen. What should you do? Is any of those options superior to the other? What are the differences? Are there any advantages to any? Let's talk about it. My name is Derek and this is Elventaro Adventures, and if you like Dungeons & Dragons or TTRPG games in general, you are in the right place, my friend, so let's get into this. Alright, so there are kinda only two ways to go about it. Either you roll in the open or you roll behind the GM screen. I don't think there's like a middle ground, unless you do roll behind it sometimes and then outside in other times, but I think that's even more cumbersome. So let's just explore these two. First, the GM screen is a staple in Dungeons & Dragons or TTRPGs in general. It serves many uses. Maybe you have some notes or a laptop or some things that you don't want the players to see, and that will never change. As the GM, unless you have everything here, but I mean, do you have perfect memory? I don't. So we all have notes or some laptop or tablet, a website open with some things that we have to consult. You don't want the players to see it. Maybe you have stat blocks or you have descriptions of your NPCs and their motivations and ambitions, and you don't want them to see. So it makes sense to have something to cover. But then what about the dice? So if you roll behind the screen, this is what happens. Number one, there is a control of information and how it flows. Everything relevant that happens in a TTRPG game is usually resolved randomly. Someone has to roll a die and then they have to add a modifier, or however they resolve it in whatever game you're playing. Someone has to use a randomizer, usually dice. They roll them and they get a result. We all understand that that's what happens, and all the dice are in the table and we can see the result. However, when the GM rolls behind the screen, the first thing that happens is that the flow of information is stopped. That's not bad necessarily. I even explained before that all the information that you have in your notes and the stat blocks and your laptop, all that information is not flowing freely. It only flows when the GM wants it. So information being retained is something that already happens in the game. So you roll the dice as the GM, but you roll it behind the screen and no one knows what happens. And they just look at you expectantly and you have to tell them the result. And they have to believe it, and the game is going to continue with whatever you said happened. And they will not know, in theory, whether what you said is exactly the result of the roll. But that's part of what happens. This brings us to number two. You can fudge the result. As a GM, you have that ability. Some people call it cheating. I don't call it cheating, it's part of the game. It has been part of D&D since forever. So let's say at a very important moment in the campaign, you have to make a roll, and the result of this roll could have dire consequences. Well, you can change the result if it fits the campaign better, or for whatever reason. I don't play rolling behind the screen, and I haven't for a few years, but when I used to do it, it was a very useful tool. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just something that's a tool that's available to you when you have a screen and you're rolling behind it. You can change the results and in this way shape the narrative. And this brings us to number three. Your ability to change the dice becomes a narrative tool to shape the story. When players roll dice, there's nothing no one can do about it. They roll it in the open always, and we just interpret, adjudicate the results. But with the rolls that you make behind the screen, you can change it so that the narrative follows your, let's call it, artistic or literary vision for the game, and you can do it. For example, if the character's actions would bring them to a situation where a character is going to die at a moment in the campaign where it would be very anticlimactic for this character to die, you can save them. And it makes sense in the story because maybe death is part of your game, but you want death to be meaningful. It's not the same if you die fighting the big bad evil dragon in your campaign in the final encounter where all bets are off than dying because a barbarian made a very bad roll against a trap in a meaningless dungeon. It's not the same, so you can shape the story that way. When you see tips about how to be a good GM, one tip that I see very often is be a fan of your characters. You want to see them win. You want to shape a cool story with the players, and this is one way to do it properly. The only disadvantage I would say about this method of rolling behind the screen is something I saw. I'm not saying everyone will feel this way. But when I was rolling behind the screen, and then there came a time when I could reshape the role, fudge the role to change the narrative, I would do it. But then I would feel, I don't know how to explain it, I would feel unsatisfied because it didn't feel real to me. And I know that's very personal, and someone could feel exactly the opposite and feel like it was very original and very genuine that they fudged it to shape the role. There's one more thing that I think is a disadvantage for this method, but it depends on your players and your table. I've found that with some types of players, when you roll behind the screen, if they play with you a lot, they learn your body language or your face language, or maybe I am very transparent. And when I fudged the dice, they kinda knew. They had no way to prove it, and I would not reveal the dice, but I would say, well, this is a critical, or this is a natural one, or this is whatever. And I could see that they kinda knew that I was fudging the dice. It just felt strange for me. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe you have experienced it too. If you have, leave a comment below. By the way, this video is sponsored by no one. What were you expecting? This is a very small channel. We have no sponsors, but we have amazing supporters on Patreon. And if you like Dungeons & Dragons, TTRPGs in general, Shadowdark RPG and all this stuff, you will love the stuff that we make on our Patreon page. We are not primarily YouTubers. As you can see, I'm all awkward here on screen. What we do is Dungeon Vault magazine, which is our flagship product, and you are missing out. But there is a free version of this magazine, the first third of the magazine. I am leaving a link in the description. It takes you to our Patreon page, but it's free. Alright, let's get back to the content. But if you don't feel like that, just like I do, well, then there's the alternative, which is rolling in the open for everyone to see with no ability. It means foregoing the ability of fudging the rolls. To some people, when I say something like this, it sounds like heresy, sacrilege. How could you, as the GM, sacrifice the one ability that you have to shape the story and just roll in the open like a peasant character? Well, let me tell you, there's also some cool things about it. First thing, and this is the one I like the most, number one, you as the GM get to be surprised. Because when you fudge the rolls and you shape the narrative, that's an amazing tool, but then you cannot be surprised. You could be surprised perhaps by what the characters do and when they roll a 20 or a 1 at unexpected times, but all the part of your side of the screen can never surprise you because you are in complete control. But when you surrender this control to the random gods, then you can be surprised again. And then you roll in the open and all bets are off, even for you, even for your monsters. It was just so weird. I don't know how to explain it, but since I started rolling in the open, now it's like we have a shared feeling of confidence and trust. Because no one can break this trust if everyone is rolling in the open. When I roll in the open and I roll a 20, a natural 20 in an attack, and I say this monster is gonna critical hit you, and they see the die right there on the table, they can say nothing about it. I just rolled it, and they saw. It's a whole different feeling. However, there are some cons to this, and I'm gonna say them too. First, all this feeling of surprise and trust, it comes with a cost, which is lack of control. You have to embrace it. If you start rolling things in the open, sooner or later, some of those rolls are gonna be really wacky. And a fight that maybe was a mid-difficulty fight, now you as the GM, sooner or later it's gonna happen that you roll 2 or 3 20s in a roll. Soon the characters are like, what the hell is going on? But you have to go with the flow. And the players also go with the flow because they know it's fair. When it's random, sometimes it's crazy, but it's always fair. But that's one of the things that sometimes doesn't go as planned. But like I said, it leans into the first point I mentioned, which is you as the GM get to be surprised. But that surprise comes with a cost. And that is that sometimes things that are really not advisable for a normal campaign maybe, or maybe you had planned things to go some way and they're not gonna go that way because, like I said earlier, maybe the barbarian just stepped into a trap, rolled a natural 1, and then I rolled the damage and it was maxed out and the character is dead. And sometimes that happens and it takes some buy-in from the players and the GM. Maybe you can offset it by leaving a lot more treasure or some treasure that can cure fast or revive fast so that people don't die as easily. I'm trying to do this with a Shadowdark RPG campaign where I'm rolling in the open. They have been in some fights that were not meant to be all that dangerous and where characters have almost died. It has happened. We haven't had any character death yet, but they have been really close, and it has always been in spots where I wasn't expecting it. So you never know. I guess this is like a trope in the genre. Sometimes I have prepared some boss fights where I was planning for a difficult fight, and I roll in the open and I just keep rolling really bad, and my bosses just do very poorly, like really, really bad. Like so bad that they are laughing not at the boss but at me as the GM because I organized the fight so bad. It was just a result of the random gods. Like there's no way to know. But alright, those are my thoughts about rolling in the open versus rolling behind the screen. I am sure if you are a GM, you have done one or the other, or maybe both. I would love to hear your comments. Let's make a conversation down here. I promise to participate. It will help us out a lot here with our YouTube channel, so thank you. Also consider subscribing. Alright, I think that's it for this one, my friend. My name is Derek and this is Elven Tower Adventures.